Hey everyone, my name is Taps, and today I'm excited to welcome back an exciting NFT Metaverse project, Kaloscope, back on the channel for round two AMA style. It's been about 4 months since our last conversation, and a lot has evolved with this project. So help me in welcoming my two special guests. First is a very familiar face, and I see there's probably another familiar face right next to him. Ecomi VeVe content creator and Kaloscope communications manager. Hello, Kay. And below is Kaloscope's founder, CEO, successful entrepreneur, Captain Kirck Allen. Thanks so much both for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Taps. It's been a while. Thanks
It
for
has
having
been a while. A lot's been happening. I mean, it's been 4 months, but I feel like every single week I'm seeing Kaloscope has new partner, Kaloscope has new advisor. They're doing this in this country and passes, it's selling out. Like there's been so much. So I think it makes sense to kind of clue in a lot of people who don't understand what Kaloscope is and to kind of see what's happened so far.
Of course, of course. We're happy to share everything that we've been going through for the last few months. And, every project starts with a backstory. And we want to showcase like from the before and then the after and what to look forward to in the future. So, yeah, hopefully the squad is coming on to come and support. And we're here to answer any questions as well.
Awesome. Well, again, what we'll do is we have quite a few things to go through, but everyone who's opted in here, thank you so much for hopping in here just to learn a little more about Kaloscope, for showing support as a Kalos squad. If you guys can, please hit that like button. It lets people know what we're talking about. It brings more into the fold. I really love what Kaloscope is doing. And I think just a lot of people don't understand what it is yet. So that's what we're going to touch on today. We're going to go through quite a few things. And if you saw on the thumbnail, if you saw on the Twitter post, so we'll get to some community questions as well. But we're going to kick things off kind of with like an itinerary of what Kaloscope is. We're going to show a demo. We're going to show some of the partnerships and roadmap, and then look big picture as to what Kaloscope is looking to accomplish over the next 12 months and further. But yeah, so I think, just to start off, I mean, everyone's pretty, I see people are already flexing, like, I've got my gold pass, I got my diamond pass, but a lot of people are still in the kind of exploratory phase, right? Like, so what is in a summarization, what is Kaloscope and how has the project evolved in the past 4 months?
Do you want to take that, Kirk, and then I'll add on?
Yeah, sure. Well, really, it started off with the idea of what if you can own your own virtual space exclusive to you, and then project the collection that you've got in a virtual world. So, the word NFTs are, again, it's just the way I look at it, it's almost like just a digital proof of ownership. But the assets attached to it just creates this a new field of interaction with something digital. So it started off with just like an idea and eventually grew into a concept which we all know today as the metaverse. And I think the first interview we've had, we didn't really have that that description of that word until Facebook sort of did like this announcement end of the year, which suddenly gave a real context and flavor to what we were doing. So as we got into that, it's just think of Kaloscope as a multi-platform metaverse project where we also where we basically interact with different NFT projects, produce virtual spaces for them, and introduce other different mechanics of really interacting with your virtual assets and to share them with your friends in a mobile, AR, VR, XR, and eventually into web-based, and we're looking into wearables as well. So really like a cross-platform experience just for the normal users, really.
Yeah. Just to add to that, so pretty much what Kirk just stated kind of covers most of it. So I think just for like an analogy, right? The way that I would describe Kaloscope from what it started from to what it's evolved to is if you think of like kind of let's say kind of mid 2010 Facebook, like all of the features around there. So you've got your digital identity on Facebook, which might be your wall. So you sign up for a Facebook account. You want to add like a banner. You want to have your profile picture. you want to add like, your interests and stuff. So you've built up an identity. The way that kind of functions more in Kaloscope is you have like, digital land. You basically build your identity within this land through a space, and that space might be, for example, the Aradinia showroom that we released, or it could be another kind of partner project space. And by doing that, you can basically kind of have a space for you to socialize with your friends. So you be able to, there's like birds up there. Yeah. One,
I think that every time you get a tweet, that's what happens.
yeah, I've actually got live birds there. It's not the chicken next to me. It's the actual bird. Okay, so yeah, you've got your kind of metaverse space, and within there you'll be able to kind of display your NFTs. So similar to the digital collectibles at VeVe, if anyone's used that, I'm pretty sure many of you have. You can kind of display your 3D assets. The same concept within Kaloscope, except you'll be able to connect your non-custodial wallet and display your assets that way. A few benefits of that is obviously if it's non-custodial, it's fully decentralized. We do not act as a custodian because people always say, not your keys, not your wallet. Yeah, I understand that. We understand that. But at the same time, there's more regulations involved if you're holding assets on behalf of someone. So there are kind of pros and cons of that. But that's one aspect. The second aspect is what I was touching on is the socializing aspect. So within your space, it won't be just you. You'll be able to invite other people. So kind of like if you've ever played VR chat with the Oculus, you'll be able to hang out, have voice chat, do all of that stuff, which is cool. Now, in the early days of Facebook, you didn't just kind of like, have your profile and socialize. You were able to do other things. You were able to, for example, play games. I spent many hours playing, Facebook Tetris with friends. So Kaloscope, similarly, there will be a gamification aspect. Some of these games you play with other people. Some of these games, you play maybe individually. And, play to earn is a big concept. There's a lot of compliance and regulation around it. But we have come up with models which should be, compliance safe. We've got a lot of cool ideas. And obviously with that, we'll have, ways where users can be rewarded for the NFTs. So the gold and diamond pass sale, we recently had that. And we are going to be enabling staking of those passes. We have a model of staking in place that should be, one, rewarding for users, and two, fully compliant as well. So we'll touch a bit more on that once the white paper is out. So well done to those who did manage to get those passes. But it won't just be passes. Our other kind of NFTs, which might be the spaces, the avatars, the kind of, individual assets, those will all be stakeable as well. Now, the type of staking, it won't just be rewards based in terms of, what we're doing with the passes. We will have other types of rewards. So we have this concept of morphing and crafting. Now, just to keep it super, super simple, if you've ever done a gachapon where you put like some money in, you turn the little handle and you get a random prize. With morphing, it's similar. What you would do is you would opt to burn, let's say a common version of an NFT. You burn it, and then in its place, you could get a different rarity version of a higher rarity. So if I was to use, let's just, again, stick with the VeVe example. If you've seen like the uncommons, the rares, the ultra rares, it's kind of like if you choose to burn a common and in its place, you could either get an ultra rare, you could get a rare, you could get an uncommon of various, it's randomized. And that way, there's a reason for people to kind of, hold the commons. They're not we'll call them commons for now. But at the same time, if a lot of people are burning these commons, technically the commons become more scarce and those become the true rare ones. So there's an element of randomness, an element of kind of, cool interactivity. So yeah, there's that. I think that kind of like summarizes a big chunk of it. So kind of social aspect, game aspect, and the digital spaces.
I mean, you said a lot of things there. I mean, you can hear the excitement, right? And like, that's what it is. And there's so many elements to it already, which, it seems like it's very early, but like how, I guess if I can summarize it, like how I take it is there has been a big gap, right? Like we all have our NFT projects that we love. We all love VeVe. We all have other NFTs that we collect. But what Kaloscope is doing is they saw a gap, right? Where there's a need for, hey, can I have some kind of social metaverse where I can interact with a community? Can I build things in it? And can I have the ability to project in that social metaverse, my Aradinia warrior, my maybe one day VeVe collectibles, maybe a Bored Ape, things like that. So basically encompassing all of it into one social metaverse where you can interact, collect NFTs, and build a community, right? Is that like a pretty good summarization?
Yeah, I mean the best way I would showcase this is if you watched, if anyone, well, I'm pretty sure most people have watched Ready Player One, and you think of it as that last scene in the movie where suddenly so many different characters come into one area for the final boss fight. That kind of looks at like where everybody, every different types of IP could be in one place. That's where I kind of look at this, wherein we're creating this bridge for different metaverses where we're just really projecting those collections. We're not taking custody of the actual assets themselves. We're just projecting your collection, but then it's a place where it's safe for you to be who you want to be, to play what you want to play, and actually to share what you want to share. So it's that's how we kind of look into it. And these ideas of portals opening to these other metaverses, like I was talking, I think last time, about the potentiality of a multi metaverse, so becoming this platform of a bridge to connect these different projects. That's how I would kind of pitch it. Actually, I used the term when I was speaking to Venkatesh the first time, almost like a metaverse aggregator. I think that was like the powerful term we've been using here in Dubai, and it seems to click.
I like that. Like that speaks to me understanding data, but I definitely think like social metaverse is like, that's kind of more mainstream, but yeah, that does make sense for it to be kind of a metaverse aggregator. And you just touched on Venkatesh, and I like what you mentioned on the Ready Player One side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull up another partnership that you guys showed a kind of a trailer or a sneak peek at what you built for Aradinia. So,
Sure.
before we get into the partnerships real quick, I did want to just, thank you for the super chat, real talk. Really appreciate that. I think this is a question that's on many minds. Just kind of looking at some of the similarities, looking at the fact that, you both are avid VeVe fans and collectors. Is there a potential, or will we ever see in Kaloscope the ability to utilize OMI for transactions?
I think you can answer this.
Yeah. Okay, so I said, yeah, that's not confirmation or anything, but so we do have a partner who he's quite heavily involved in Ecomi. He helped develop a lot of the VeVe app in the early days. He himself is also a shareholder of Ecomi, and his project recently they kind of sort of teased and leaked relations with Ecomi, but I believe we'll probably find out more details on their side later on. Obviously, with everything that has been happening with the OMI token migration and everything basically, I think we'll probably have to wait a little bit once they finalize stuff. But we will have kind of some interesting stuff with Venkatesh's project, which is Epico Regal. And through that, we'll probably see some cool stuff. But the OMI token specifically, they did say that they wanted to work with other projects to utilize that token. And I think there's definitely scope there to use the OMI token. And I'll probably leave it at that.
I like that. So it's a possibility, no confirmation yet, but just again to kind of summarize it up, Venkatesh, is a strategic advisor with Kaloscope. Venkatesh is or was or I think he still is
Yeah, it still is.
involved with VeVe and Ecomi and his project Epico Regal, which if you haven't played it, I think we all saw kind of a look at the fact that Epico was doing something with VeVe and then it kind of disappeared. But Epico Regal is a mobile app game that Venkatesh and Warp Studios has created, and there's some overlap, right? So that's why I'm pretty sure Real Talk was asking that question. I think it's a great question. But on that note, I would love to kind of understand a little bit more because again, every single week it seems like there's more and more partnerships, more and more things happening that I'm seeing on Twitter with Aradinia and Metaverse And we even saw Brock McBlockchain as an advisor now. I mean, there's a lot happening. So who are the partnerships that we know about today? Are there more under the wing that are also big partnerships? And also, I guess, who are the advisors that are in place? I can kind of share my screen on some of those too.
Yeah, sure. I can start off really. Well, the partnerships we're showcasing right now is almost like a strategic way to show that these are the people that are going to help us build this project. We haven't been sort of leaking too much exactly on, let's say, what type of brand we're going to be dropping besides Aradinia and some of the stuff that we mentioned with NFTs as well. But for the first phase, for this phase of the year, we're looking to just like, hey guys, look, we have partnered with very high level and professional individuals that are successful in their field to build and this sort of metaverse platforms that's accessible to as many people as we can. And to build this, you need to have the foundations of some people who have already done this before, and to have the clear vision, the clarity of how to showcase this. You need the best of the best. So it starts with that, and eventually, once we have a stable showcase of what the platform will be, eventually we'll be showcasing a lot more partnerships, because the possibilities are endless, because it can go from actual collectibles to avatars to potentially virtual pets. It's a metaverse, and it's not just okay, here's a picture and put it on the wall. We're adding a lot of aspects of this. So it starts with really the foundations of partnerships.
Mhm.
Aradinia was one of the most key ones, thanks to our partners with Dozer, Hera, and Athena, who set this up.
Yeah, and I think it's good to know things like this, because I think some of the perspective sometimes is you see people who are involved in VeVe and Nakomi, like they create NFT projects, but a lot of people don't realize that Kaloscope is an NFT company, is a metaverse project, right? So it's more than just like a 10K NFT created by someone who's in the VeVe community, which, I love seeing it. I love seeing when people do that. But Kaloscope is a functional NFT metaverse project company with advisors, funding, other NFT projects signing on, like Aradinia, which Aradinia Warriors are doing great. And this, I didn't like when I heard that there's something coming with Aradinia. I don't know what I was expecting, but the quality of this is incredible. And seeing people in the Aradinia community, like I hold an Aradinia Warrior in my OpenSea NFTs. So when I saw this, I was impressed. You guys did great work on the quality of creating these customized showrooms for a project like Aradinia.
Yeah, Taps, if you could just go back to the video somewhere in the middle just to demonstrate something. So basically, like you can pause it there or somewhere. So basically this would be an example of a digital space. So when you purchase a digital space, what you're purchasing an NFT, and that NFT, when you hold it on the Kaloscope platform, it unlocks this space. So your NFT not only your space, not only is it interactive, is it themed, but it's something that you can own and sell freely. So that means that this Aradinia space, not everyone's going to have it. I think when it's publicly available, only 400 of them will be available. So only 400 people can ever own this space, and there's a lot more than 400 people that hold Aradinia Warriors. I can tell you that. So that's where the scarcity
of Taps trades that can hold it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But if you do hold it, it's not like only you can experience it. We're working on the ability to invite friends into your space. So, you could have, I think there will be a limit just for, performance reasons on, whatever platform it is you're using. But you'll be able to kind of bring them in, voice chat and hang out, and then we'll build on that functionality over time. But yeah, like you said, it's important to emphasize that we're not just selling an NFT and a load of promises. What we're selling is, we're building out a proper product. And with that, there are some pros and cons. The obvious cons is we can't deliver things overnight because it is complex. There is a lot of kind of stuff that goes on in the back end. But at the same time, there's a lot more you can do, a lot more kind of value for our partners as well, because we're doing something that a lot of NFT projects can't do. And so we're kind of helping them build utility for their brand, whilst at the same time bringing them exposure. So there's a strong value proposition there for them as well.
I'm happy you mentioned that, because this speaks to me looking at all the other NFT projects that I'm in. Like I have a lot more than outside just VeVe and OpenSea. And I think constantly about how, like, Gary Vee and many, many others have said, 98, 99% of the other NFT projects are going to fail whenever we do hit a bear market. And constantly you're seeing the communities. How can we keep our community engaged so that we keep the floor of our NFTs up? And how can we actually fund a metaverse? And it's very, very difficult. And like, you want something that's not quite as simple as a chat room, right? Like a virtual chat room, because we've evolved beyond that. But you can't pour millions of dollars to create your own metaverse for most of these projects. So you need something like this that I think builds value for these NFT projects. And that's what speaks to me. So like, we see this with Aradinia, but the limitations, there's only so much limitation when it comes to like time to actually create these for other NFT projects. So this is not just to me like a opportunity for us as pass holders or to buy NFTs, collectibles in here, but it's also an opportunity for NFT projects who have a solid community to sign on a partnership with Kaloscope, which kind of helps both sides, right?
Yeah, and there's also a very strong aspect of, I think we used this term earlier, which is cross-community pollination, wherein you can have other people's communities come into this one space to learn about it. If you come into an Aradinia space, you've never heard of the project, you've probably never seen it before. You probably know about the collections, but you won't know the actual the project. But as you enter that space, it's like, wow, where can I get one? How do I get one? How do I unlock one of these? And what do? They go to that specific brand, they check them out. And for current holders, if you own multiple copies of your favorite IP or brand or project, at least you have a space dedicated for that said project or IP. So, and then vice versa. Then the more exposure and a number of other aspects of just cross pollinating these communities. That's really what the heart is. Like the community is going to be very important to building the metaverse, because all we're doing is bridging it, but the key here is the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm excited about Kaloscope. I mean, it makes sense to me. I see that there's a gap, that there's a need for it, but there's more to this, right? Like, there's partnerships that you've announced also with Metaverse that's actually bringing real life utility to the project before the project is even like fully launched, right? Which is exciting. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think about. Like, it's really hard to find a lot of projects that get me excited. I don't really cover a ton of other projects because I really need to understand that it's more about, hey, we're saying we're going to do this versus we're implementing actions, and here's the proof. And so when I look at Kaloscope, I look at the leadership, I look at the advisors, I look at the actions, I look at what I can visually see, like with Aradinia and other things, and that's what's got me excited about it. Like, I saw, I think, Hera actually just posted that, Kirk, you're going to be speaking at NFT NYC, which that's exciting. And I saw your post directly showing working on AR functionality with food at Metaverse. So can you speak a little bit more about the other partnerships? And then we're going to get into the roadmap, what the passes do, and actually show a demo.
Sure. Well, just about 2 days ago, I went to the Metaverse. Unfortunately, I caught COVID during New Year, so I couldn't be there during the actual launch. According to Christian, our CTO, even I think one of the co-founders of Polygon went there to party and just bought everyone drinks. So I kind of missed out on that. Now, the terrace itself is it's almost like an open air terrace that you can go and view. Like, have a beautiful view of the Dubai Marina, the Burj Khalifa, which is the biggest, the tallest building in the world, and a bunch of amazing landmarks. And just imagine like an open space, and then inside that space, we are looking to introduce an experience for, let's say, people can be wearing VR headsets while having an NFT or crypto event to come and go and see this virtual area. And a number of very, very, very big brands have already approached us to launch some projects in the terrace, hopefully around, in the first quarter or second quarter of this year. So and this is the reason why we wanted to produce a lot of value to our early adopters, to say that we're looking at real world utility, not just like, hey, here's a piece of a picture. You're not buying a picture or a pass. You're buying the utility behind that pass. And over time, we would like to add more functionality of it, like just it's almost like an exclusive club over time. And the people who are very early into the project, who followed our journey without seeing the vision, this is where it starts. And a lot of companies that I think covered, as you're showing there, which one is this? I haven't actually seen this one, but yeah, it's an amazing view. And the food wise, we're looking at adding AR VR functionality on the menu. So that's the photo I shared on Twitter. We took some photos of some food, and then using your phone, potentially maybe even a functionality within our app. But we're still looking into it. We're trying to check out like different exciting features, but think of it as a very modern restaurant lounge bar with utilities for early pass holders.
That's really, really cool. So, I mean, it's good to see, I mean, just off the kickoff, right? Like we saw Gary Vee is doing this with some restaurant. I think there's one in New York, and he's been branching out, but like, this is the way the space is going, right? Is you need real life utility tied to it. And almost it creates like a special club. So if you have Diamond Pass, essentially you would have access to this Metaverse lounge, correct?
Yeah, well, there's a number, something more beyond that, really. It may be access to the bar or club, but it's the events that uh, we'll be showcasing over time. So maybe it's going to be maybe a free drink, maybe a discount at the bar. And the cool thing about it is we are going to be introducing potentialities of being able to pay using crypto as well in the bar. So there's a lot of new functionalities we're looking into, but it's still very early stage. We're testing out the waters, but yeah, we'll announce over time, like properly, maybe with a Medium article, a special interview with like actually some of our partners like Christian and the Colossal Bits ship. We'll be doing a lot more stuff from there.
Perfect. And I know there's a lot more other advisors and partnerships we could speak to with, with Argentix and Colossal as well, or Colossal Bit. But I want to kind of stay on the fact that we're talking about the diamond and gold passes, only because we saw recently, let me see if I have the picture here, but we saw recently that they just sold out, correct?
Yeah, all the diamonds are gone. There was some golds left, but they had been, I believe they should be getting delisted. Like, I think maybe they'll all be completely delisted in the next 2.5 hours. So the way it worked was we had a 48-hour event, and in order to kind of prevent, we had to kind of plan for the potentiality that someone or a group of people could buy all of them in one go, if they're in one specific time zone, and then that would leave nothing for everyone else. So we staggered the drop. So across 48 hours, we basically dropped small batches of them. So the ones that were dropped right at the start, either they had completely sold out, or they were the first ones to be delisted, hypothetically, if they didn't sell. And up until the final day, which I think was I think it's 1st of February. So today is the 3rd of February. So the ones that were listed towards the end, those should be expiring now for the golds. The diamonds are completely gone. I think the floor is around about 1 ETH for the diamonds. We listed them for 0.2, even though the floor at the time was 0.4, because we wanted them to be kind of competitive and more accessible for everyone. We didn't want to set something at a high price point from the get-go.
Got it. Okay. So I mean, clearly the value shot up and they're gone on the diamond side. So can you speak a little bit to then what is the larger utility of these passes? Because you did mention obviously, some real life utility, but also kind of thinking further down the line, like what do these do for further NFTs coming to
Mm.
Kaloscope? You mentioned staking. Like what does the full utility of the diamond and the gold pass look like for those who are holding them?
Okay. Just to like summarize, so we have the article there that kind of goes through the basic early utility, such as Discord membership perks, and outside of the stuff that other projects can offer you, what's unique to us specifically that we can offer is one, the kind of real world utility examples. So, for example, the Metaverse, that's a physical lounge restaurant bar that we have where you can turn up and you're essentially it's kind of like having a VIP pass. So real world utility is one. The other is specific to the Kaloscope platform. So in order to reward diamond pass holders and gold pass holders as being like early supporters, if we are doing an exclusive partner drop, let's say there are 400 editions of it, we will reserve, let's say 20%, so about 80 of those only for diamond and gold pass holders, which they'll be able to access maybe between 30 to 60 minutes before the public drop. So you have less competition, and it's basically like early access to a drop. If you fail to secure one within that early access period, then you can join the public queue. That's perfectly fine as well.
So it's almost like a
So
like a private whitelist on several NFT projects, almost kind of like what we see with
exactly,
like the Meta Key and several other projects where the pass that's why you want to hold it, right? Versus, I mean, you can
exactly.
flip it, but if you hold it, then you're basically investing in the fact that you get first access to more NFTs and bigger projects that are going to come down the line.
Exactly. So that's like more on the platform side. Now, in terms of the utility within the features that we're developing, so we are currently working on a model for staking. So you'll be able to stake the passes as well as other NFTs that we drop, and this is going to be related to token allocation, and we'll speak a little bit more on the token later on. But for example, hypothetical numbers here. If you were to stake a diamond pass and every day you get like say 10 points at the end of 30 days, that's 300 points. That 300 points would then translate to, let's say hypothetically, you have an allocation of 300 tokens that you can get. So that's an example, right? So you would have an allocation of 300 tokens at the kind of, let's say, super early private sale price. So you'd get it, before the before the public sale. Now you can stake additional passes, additional NFTs on top to kind of accumulate those points. So this is a way of kind of rewarding people who kind of support us early on. At the same time, they will still be able to kind of participate in the normal public sale just as anyone else would. And specifically with beyond the sale aspect, we are, like I said, we're not just building, the social aspect or, the value proposition for our partners. That we know that for many users, they want to kind of do something engaging on the platform. So we are building a layer of gamification. But me, myself, coming from a software development background, I know a lot of the issues related to games, such as rewards that aren't really that rewarding. The big issue of bots, that's a big one with all platforms. So I've basically been working with the devs to design a solution that kind of addresses all those issues. One very common solution to the botting issue that Axie Infinity suffered from was one, to have a very limited number of times that you can play the game each day. So with a bot versus a human, obviously, if it's a game that requires some thought process, then it is better to go with an actual human, especially if you only get a very limited number of plays. And then secondly, if we limited the number of times you can play per day, that gives us room to then add bonuses on top. So what if the diamond pass gave you an extra 2 tries at the game per day versus someone who could only play it 5 times? Or something along those lines. So now there's more value there, and the more times you play, the more rewards, the more points you earn, And maybe at the end of the period, we'll have like a sort of leaderboard, and people who are maybe the top quartile or in the top 10%, for example, they get the biggest share of rewards, and then it kind of staggers downwards. So that's pretty much some of the utility that you could expect. But this is all dependent on the development of the platform, which we have a very, very solid team kind of supporting us with. And we've done quite a bit already without raising a lot of capital. When I say raising a lot of capital, I mean public capital. But yeah, we've definitely got a lot more to come.
Awesome. I mean, I think that's exactly what I was kind of curious about when I first saw the passes is, does it make sense to grab them? And then because the floor went up, should I flip it? But then kind of understanding more about it kind of reminds me of, like the recur port, the passes, or the meta keys, or Tom Bilyeu's impact theory founder's key. Like if you hold it, you're basically gaining access to much, much more. And it's the initial NFT drop, right? Like it's an investment into Kaloscope's future and further NFT projects. So there's a lot of different pieces to this. And I think as we can visually see it in the app, I think that's where, we'll actually be able to understand even more. But I mean, with everything you guys have stacked up, the team, the partnerships, it makes sense to me to hold mine. And I have a diamond and a gold, so I'm happy there. But with that in mind, let's kind of touch on the roadmap, because I think a lot of the questions definitely can be answered, and there'd be a lot more easier to explain and draw if there was a website, which we can see is here on this quarter. And then talking about like the Genesis drop, the Kalos token, and what is the great NF tree.
So just to touch on that roadmap. So this was the initial roadmap. Now we kind of staggered it off until Q2 because that's up until where we felt confident enough with predicting what we could do. So yes, the website will be launched. The target is this month. The Genesis drop is kind of like the first drop. So, the target for that is, again, this quarter as well. And yes, we have the whitelisting, which we're aiming to start next quarter. Now, that is, again, the initial roadmap. The white paper that's going to be released, that's going to have the updated roadmap based off of everything that we have up until now. So just bear in mind that some of these dates, they may be shifted forward by one quarter for some of the things. The whitelisting, for example, potentially could be the quarter after. So that would be for the token sale. And that's just because we want to make sure that the tokenomics are sound and the percent distribution is very fair, because few things that we've learned from other projects, and I'll probably make this super transparent now, is our private sale of the tokens is going to be super, super limited. We actually have a cap, and there's like a certain criteria, and that's because we know in a lot of projects we don't want any whales in here. We want it to be kind of more rewarding for the community, so there's going to be a lot of staking systems involved. And at the end of the day, we feel that that's like the best approach to take, because one, with Kirk's business contacts, we're able to raise quite a lot of capital without giving away too many tokens through other methods. Also, because we're operating in the NFT space, we're able to kind of raise capital through providing these NFTs which will grant perks. So we don't need to give away tons of private sold tokens and then worry about some VC who's going to dump along the line. Like we're looking from the get-go to avoid any of those issues. And I think that will instill confidence in people who are kind of involved in the project as well. So with the roadmap, we will release an update version.
Before we continue on, I want people to realize what you just said, because that got like a raise in my chest, just because what you said was that you have a cap and a limited amount for the private sale, so that way there aren't any Mondo whales in the project who can just dump as soon as unlocks and all that happen, right? So you're setting up the success of this company for the public investors, the retail investors as well, and you're making sure that this is going to be a longevity project and not just a pump and dump or potential rug pull, right? So, and the fact that you have enough funding based on Kirk's connections and through other companies, that all those things that you're saying is what I look for when I'm investing in any company, whether it's in crypto, whether it's in NFTs, whether it's in stocks. I mean, you're saying all the right things, but I just wanted everyone to hear that, because that speaks volumes to me, and I can't wait to see the tokenomics and the white paper once that's released here coming up. But sorry, continue. I just had to everyone understand what you said, because that's awesome.
Yeah, of course, of course. But yeah, the kind of tokenomics as well, we want to make sure that's super sound, just so that we, continue to embed that value. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we feel confident about is, kind of a lot of projects, if they are, not sticking around for a long time, they'll usually use like aliases. They'll kind of be quite careful with like, their identities and stuff. But, everyone knows who we are because, the plan is that this is supposed to be a long-term project. We're looking to kind of, continuously partner with other kind of brands. And one of the biggest ones that we released at the Crypto Expo in Dubai. So we showcased there in October, we partnered with the World Economic Forum on the largest carbon capture project on the planet called the Great Green Wall of Africa. And that's backed by the United Nations. We're doing that with Kirk's uncle's company, which is Syria Shea, like the largest shea butter manufacturer in the world, distributor, and, OneTree.org, like all of these kind of NGOs. We're working with them to plant 1 trillion trees. And the idea is we'll have kind of an NFT sale on behalf of them, working with them. And these NFT trees, it sounds like, it doesn't sound that exciting, but it's pretty cool. Like when you start to see the utility, because one of the cool things is a lot of companies, they try and look to demonstrate their corporate social responsibility, which is CSR. And we see this all the time. They always have like, a budget allocated to this. And typically what they would do is they would donate money and they would get like a certificate to show that they've donated. And they would show that to their shareholders and stuff and be like, look how, green we are. We donated $1 billion to this initiative. But that's kind of like the current way, the outdated way of doing it. What we see as being kind of the next step forward is, if you want to showcase ownership and if you want to showcase transparently, what you have contributed to, then the blockchain is the best place to do it, right? So what we then see is, we have these NFT trees, which are linked to the physical trees. Users can then purchase these, or let's say institutions in this case, and they can show on the blockchain, exactly how much they've purchased or how much they've contributed. And that, in a way, is real showcase of ownership. Because the other issue is with consumers, if they donate to a charity and you expect that charity to manage your money, that kind of mechanism between your money and where it ends up, you don't exactly know how your money is being spent. It could go, only 10% of your money ends up going to the cause that you want it to go to. Whereas here, there's like full transparency. You can actually see on the blockchain, did my money go towards where it's supposed to go, or did it, half of it get siphoned off to some, investors? Like, you'll be able to see that. So that, in a way, is true value proposition. And that's kind of like one of the other things is we're not just catering towards retail, we're catering towards institutional as well.
Yep, I'm happy you re-hit on that, because I was just about to say that's another side of it, right? It's retail, it's NFT projects who can build out their own, unique NFT showrooms, and then now you're talking about institutions, right? How do we as an institution create an NFT side to our business, and then how do we also show that we're in support of the environment, right? I remember all the email subject lines for a while. I would say like, hey, my carbon footprint is this, or this is what I'm giving back in my paycheck. But I agree with you. Like, this is the way that more organizations and institutions are moving. It's another step towards, hey, we want to get into NFTs, but we also want to show that we're able to give back or have carbon neutral footprint. And that's where we're seeing a lot more success and kind of battle against the whole NFTs are killing the environment, right? So I think that's really interesting to see. And so these NFTs will be their own NFT that tie to institutions.
I was going to add as well, Taps, basically the fact that we're building a metaverse is, anyone can come up with a 3D model and stick it in a room. And you can have a large environment. It could be a castle or maybe a forest, but you know, it's the thing that you feel. Like imagine coming into a virtual forest, but those actual trees in the virtual land is actually tied up to something that's real. So it's really like every single tree could be potentially connected to something real. And the idea is that like instead of getting it's almost like a certificate of contribution, that you put something in, you get something out of it, rather than a thank you very much email and an update on a website, because that's not cool. Like as our generation, we all grew up with video games, like Zelda and RPG games, like different things like this. But the fact that the environment, the virtual environment around you, could be tied up to a real world project, it adds that extra layer of, half of it is metaverse, half of it's real. you know, it's that link, that one link there that should. I feel that it's gonna hit a lot of people, you know, in the chest. It's a contribution factor.
I'm happy you said that, Kirk, just because that does resonate, right? Like anytime I've heard a CEO or a leader talk about not just the financial gain or how big something can be, where they're actually talking about like an emotional effect. I think of David Yu talking about like his passion for collecting and like what that's translated to VeVe. I think about Tom Bilyeu talking about how he's going into the NFT and metaverse space because he wants to have a nostalgic, emotional impact on people. And I think leaders who actually touch on that, and not just the fact that, hey, you put money in this, you're going to make a ton of money, but more also like, this is what you can do to make money, to give back, to grow as a community, to, have actual physical proof of this is what I'm doing to help. I love all of it. So
Yeah.
that's great to hear.
I want to share you a small story as well, just a quick one. When we came up with this early idea, I was in Ukraine, and I called up my William, one of the heads of Sirius Shea, and I told him about this concept about NFTs, and they're working on some project in Africa. And I was saying you should really add NFTs to this, and he was saying, "What is an NFT, and how would that work?" So when I pitched him the idea that oh, you can have a 3D asset and potentially you can link it to the project itself, he didn't really understand it. But then we created like a video showcasing this virtual tree will be given to contributors for the potential drop, and you know he cried because it's impactful that like I can buy like if I was even if I was a young kid, I bought something, just a bit of my money, a pocket change from school, I bought something, and I can then have a virtual tree that I can take a picture right next to me to showcase proof that, hey, I contributed to something, and I can just show it to my friends instead of just like a picture. I can augment it in real life, or I can put it in a virtual room, invite my business partners, and say, look, not only we bought this painting for $1 million, but we also contributed to these causes, as you can see here, which I'm pretty sure we'll showcase it on the demo in a bit. So it's very impactful and an emotional state. I feel like at the end of the day, when people utilize products or experiences, it's the emotional factor that gets people to stick. You want to contribute, and at the same time, you want to have fun doing it, because like you can contribute as much as you can, you get more trees, and you can decorate your room. You can resize it and reshape it. It's the metaverse that it should have endless possibilities. That the things that you can't do in real life, you can then do in a platform, and that's what we hope to achieve at some point.
I love it. And we're going to ask a couple more questions about like big picture stuff and get to some community questions. But I think that segues really well into, let's see the demo, right? Like I think some people have seen some pieces of it. I think some people have not, but let's actively take a look at, what we have today. And I think it'll be different once we can actually have, the mobile app and be able to actually wear wearable and interact too, because it has all the different types of functionality. But do you guys have the ability to share the demo screen?
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we can see now. Yeah, so before I start, I'll just emphasize that this is the mobile app version. So this was a demo. So this was to showcase to people who are interested in getting involved in the project what the complete version will look like, and it allowed us to build upon the ideas. The first version of the whole Kaloscope kind of universe is going to showcase a web-based platform, specifically because it's more accessible to everyone. And in terms of development, there are less barriers as well. Developing on mobile is always trickier. So we want to build and showcase the initial features and then make that backwards compatible with mobile. And also, because mobile is iOS and Android, the Oculus, for example, is also Android. So that once we build for mobile, we'll also in parallel build for Oculus as well. And as you saw earlier, the Aradinia showroom, that was actually in Oculus. So you would actually be kind of like, within this space. So that I think is going to be quite enjoyable for people. So we'll start with the demo. So you can see we've got our Kaloscope app here. We load it up and we see a few kind of these, login page modals. And we log in. So you're taken to some of your spaces. You can see a few of them here in our collection. And there's probably a few things that you can see now. Again, the text and everything, this was all placeholder. But you'll be able to essentially, showcase your spaces, and you'll be able to access them in either AR, VR, or XR mode. So augmented reality, we all kind of know what that is if you use platforms like VeVe. So here we can see we're just scanning the floor, and in the final version, we'll have like a proper portal that pops up right now. We're entering our showroom. So there are a few things you can do in here. In the top right, you can see that there's an asset button. So that should be self-explanatory. You'll be able to kind of filter through your assets. Now, right now, we're using the kind of joystick now. So this is more of the VR sort of mode. So you can kind of walk around with your phone, but you can also kind of use the joysticks if you're sat in your bed and you don't want to walk around. Now, if you kind of want to use your phone to look around, but you live in a small room where you can't actually walk to the end of the, this space because you have a physical wall blocking you, then you can still kind of work around that. You can use a single-handed joystick and look around. So that's what we've described as the XR mode. But again, these names will change over time. Now, when we go to the assets, we can see the NFTs that we currently own. And this, I believe, can't remember the exact cost of it, but it was pretty expensive. Our CTO purchased this. And this is, a Dubai mural. It's a physical mural that exists in the real world. And this was turned into an NFT and sold at auction. Again, I can't remember how much it was. Maybe it was like $70,000, $80,000. But
like 56K, so it's quite much.
That's the exact number, $56,000. And here's actually an example of an NFT. So we're kind of displaying that in our space as well. You kind of rotate, size, reposition it. And, you can decorate the showroom as you want. And then you can invite people to it, hang out, and, converse with them, socialize, participate in games and things. And you can kind of start to see how this all builds together. Now, these NFTs, again, these aren't NFT. Well, the mural isn't an NFT that we created. This was an external NFT. So the idea is, when I said earlier, you'll be able to connect your non-custodial wallet, it's to access the NFTs in that wallet as well. So that is going to be kind of a later iteration where you won't be able to display just our NFTs, but you'll be able to display NFTs from, outside of Kaloscope. And the way you display those, again, that's something we're working on, because do we want to display them all as 2D portraits, or do we want to kind of work around other ways? And obviously, with the social aspect, we'll have kind of like what is known as the flex feed. So you can kind of show off, if you own a really expensive Bored Ape, for example, you can have that in your space, show it off. People can kind of, contact you if they want to buy it, or, you can also demonstrate ownership this way, because your NFTs, they're linked to the contract address, similar to kind of how they've done it with Twitter Blue, where if you own that NFT, you've got the kind of, hexagon profile picture. Here, if you own that NFT, then it will have the original contract address, and we'll look to interface with, OpenSea API, for example, to demonstrate if it's verified or not. And yeah, we'll basically kind of build upon that as a concept. And we will have a token as well. So this was kind of an early concept of, the token. And yeah, more details about that will be discussed later.
I'll add as well to here, wherein, so if you click on this, like the mural, you got three different options here, which is the information about the NFT, the blockchain information of that NFT, like the code and potential value. And this, I want to add in, this is the very important part, which we call as Perkability. So this is a term that I came up with very early on in the NFT space, wherein you have a perk, an ability, and to showcase the true value of that NFT. Because everybody asks, let's say, if you're new to crypto, new into NFTs, all I see is a picture, right? I can go to the artifact, and a friend of mine, she came over to come and see me, and basically, like, what is the functionality of the NFT early on? Like, if you just go back to the perk section, okay, yeah, that one. So as you can see, like, what do I get? So some of these NFTs are selling for $20,000, and why am I paying that much for a picture? So for in our platform, we want to showcase like, hey, these are the perks that come along with this NFT. Maybe it's a 2D image, access to an event, maybe 10% off on a shop, and also looking into potentially NFT sponsorships, wherein we can connect with other brands and companies and say, hey, you got 10,000 holders of this image. Maybe all 10,000 holders of this specific NFT can potentially get, I don't know, let's say Starbucks comes in and say, we want to sponsor this NFT, and all 10,000 holders of this specific NFT can get 10%, 20% off Starbucks. So what happens? It shoots up the value because utility has been added. It gives exposure to the brand. And on top of that, once it's sold, the artist gets royalties from the push demand. So there's a lot of different things we can look into and aspects that we can showcase together to give value to the holders and owners.
So it's full visibility to see what benefits or perkabilities, as you're saying, are tied to my NFTs, right? So it is also, so like you said, like it's enabling someone who creates NFTs or a project that's involved with Kaloscope to tie and have full visibility for their investors of those NFTs or their community on what perks they have. But they can also then, because of this, choose to add perks later down the line, or they can swap some out. And even if, like, let's say if Taps Trades wants to start creating NFTs, if I created an NFT of, I don't know, of that money tree back there, and hey, NFTs, and and if I wanted to have it like tied to real life utility with like my channel or something like that, like I could always add that into the Perkabilities, and that would be my NFT that whoever collects it, they could see it has 10% off on this, or like a live meet and greet or something like that, like things like that.
Yeah, because if you're a new subscriber, let's say I just found you the first time and somehow I got your NFT, or a friend of mine showed it to me. I don't know who you are and what perks I get, because all I see is an image at the moment, or I see a 3D model. But if there was at least a summary or a tab where I can just one tab and I can see all the perks, probably the best way was I think VeVe did their drop with the golden moments, and some people just click on the buy button, and like my dad joined that. He got Homer Simpson, and
Nice.
he thought all he got was a Homer, and then like I think a day later he got like an email from Disney. You get Disney Plus. So all that stuff is cool, but if I go to the app, it doesn't tell me exactly unless I read the description. I get, I don't know, 6 months or 12 months of subscriptions on that. So like stuff like this to make it easier for users, especially there's a lot of people in the NFT space who shifted from crypto to NFTs, and even they didn't know what an NFT was. Like one of the most influential ladies here in crypto just told me, "Oh, it's a fad. It's not going to happen." And then she's now running and screaming about it all over Dubai. So, but perks is going to be a very important factor for longevity of NFTs. Like most of them will fail, but the utility behind the NFTs will give it so much value long term. And just think about the possibilities of NFTs, from passports to documents to later down the line university degrees to even the deeds to your house. But then where do I see that perk? Where can I find it? So just a small tab will make a big difference. Just as an example. Yeah, and you can just press play. This is just me just playing around. That's the AR functionality. You press play and look. You can now augment that picture, move it around.
The controls
So
seem pretty easy to use too. That's one thing. Like I obviously I'm a big VeVe fanboy, but the actual vaults, how to like place things and use it, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes. So this seems like it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to use.
yeah, well, that was the main idea from the very beginning. We want to make it simple because not everybody has the time to learn these things, like shifting, opening your thing. So can we just pause this one, okay, for a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is also a unique aspect for Kaloscope because the fact that you're connecting your wallet, and also you want to have some people want to create a new identity, right? The metaverse allows this aspect that you can be who you want to be or have a different life in a way. So this part we call this as the meta profile. We dub it as, let's say, the passport to the metaverse.
Hmm.
So in let's say the metaverse, you don't need to know my real name. You could probably just know me as Captain Kirk, but you wouldn't know my real name. So, some people can just hide their identity. So you can have your username at the top, maybe some badges to showcase what type of person I am. So maybe CL could be a collector, or maybe MCL because I'm a master collector, CR maybe because I'm a creator, or MCR, a master creator. As Case mentioned also earlier about the utility and features of gamification we're adding on, we're showcasing a crafting. You could be a master crafter or maybe master builder when you can build your own spaces in Kaloscope. So there's a lot of cool things we can add for badges to just showcase that you're not just here's your username, but you also earn a title of who you are within the app. Now with this information, potentially, at some point, well, hopefully we can integrate it at some point. Like you can go to an NFT project and maybe just like sign in with Kaloscope the same way you go sign in with Facebook. The difference is you control the information, or you allow the access to that information because again, it's tied up to your ownership. This is your identity. This is your NFT portfolio. And as I go down, you can see the most important part in the middle, which is the avatars. People love all these 3D assets and avatars. You want to walk around your virtual space with an avatar because when, let's say, Taps, we invite you to our space, a portal will open. You come out of that metaverse space, that portal, and I can see you in your metaverse costume. You can see me and Cake in the metaverse costume, and we can be having this conversation in a virtual metaverse rather than just on sort of a Zoom call or online call. We've added also some aspects of followers. People like to showcase their following, links, which we'll explain another time. Pets is also a good teaser. We're looking into sort of like the meta pet category. We'll add some gamification to that, which we'll elaborate probably a little bit later down the line once we solidify how would that work. Metabots was just the idea, like almost like a virtual assistant. So I mean, these two things really, because when I was early on with the idea of Kaloscope, I realized that as I was walking around these virtual rooms, it's so cool. I can place my assets. Okay, that's so much fun. And then I realized I was all alone.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of us are, especially if you're very you don't really like to talk much. If VR chat, it's a bit daunting. For example, I was in Oculus. I didn't have any friends in Oculus when I just came in, and like, who do I talk to? But if I had like a virtual pet that walks around with me, or potentially a bot, like it makes it less like I'm alone. I can maybe feed it. I can. There's a lot we could potentially do, but yeah, that's why we've added like different things. So it's not just about your profile picture and that's you. You want to showcase the avatar that you love to like to use, maybe the partner. It's like, let's say, if people grow up with Pokemon. Like what if my partner was a Pikachu type of NFT project or whatever, or a bot, an assistant. So yeah, that's just the gist of the profile. But if you just press play.
One thing I wanted to say real quick on this is just that master creator side appeals, I think, to a whole nother demographic too, right? Because one thing we have to wait with a lot of NFT projects is who can they sign with, who can they work with. But if you're able to become a master creator in this, then I think of like Brock McBlockchain, who's an advisor with Kaloscope as well, and like massive figure in VeVe and has his own project Fiches, right? Like I love my Fiches, but he can bring his project in here or like add, create new things in here and then become a master creator, not just a master collector, right? And you could probably advertise your project or others can advertise their project through here as well.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
one of the cool things is if we were to work with, let's say, the Fiches project, we could create like,
You might want to pause
you
this
can
real
see
quick.
like a 3D Fiches space. If you have your Fiches in your, your non-custodial wallet, then you could bring them into a 3D space as a way to display them. So that's just another example. And if you're holding certain ones, if we were to work with a brand, then we could do, specific airdrops for that brand as well. So I think that's quite an important point to take home.
yeah, and at some point we will create what we're looking to do. Maybe at some point, like some sort of a studio to build your own NFTs. Well, we're looking at different aspects to add more functionality to the app. But yeah, this is just a Spanish football team space. We just added this last bit because at some point you're not just looking at NFT projects and different other types of brands, maybe sports, maybe gamification, maybe even charities, or there's different types. And I think that when Kay touched on earlier the early days of Facebook, you think of, let's say, a fan page or your personal fan page. People check out your profile, you find out more information about it. But in this aspect, or our sort of our introduction to a social metaverse is, instead of going to a fan page, you can go into a space, and inside that space you can get the experiences that's related to that certain brand or project. So different artists can potentially have their own space, and within that space they can showcase their NFTs, rather than like a website portal. As you scroll down, it's like a 2D image. You scroll down, you read for hours, whatever they're doing. I'd rather spend like maybe 5 minutes to walk around the space. Oh, this thing looks cool. Can I tap on that? I tap on that. Maybe it takes me to the website where I can buy it. So it's a bit more immersive experience, where we said like we want to move from Web 2 to Web 3, from two-dimensional browsing to a three-dimensional experience. And this, we think, the way we believe in this is that this is not the final end for all. This is just it's just the baby steps towards this, the wearables, as Kay was discussing. We want to, people, I don't think, is going to just jump in, put on a headset, and it'll be their everyday thing. It's too, like, you get sick just wearing that headset, to be honest.
Yep.
But at least with this one, you have control of it on your hand, on your phone, and obviously in the web portal as well, where you can just browse around. So it's just like that baby steps towards this Web3 experience.
I mean, this seems really awesome. And the fact that it's not out yet, right? So like a lot of the information that I'm looking at, like looking at the profile, looking at the app, looking at the functionality, I mean, this is still alpha, right? So it's all going to be kind of, refined and added things. And so the fact that it's at this stage and I already like what I'm seeing, it's exciting. And I do want to get to some of the kind of like longer big picture questions. And so I think about two more, but I did see two questions that I think are important. And I think one I might be able to answer, and then tell me if I'm correct or not. One, Real Talk asked, what platform is Kaloscope built on?
Yeah, platform wise, so it's pretty much cross platform. So initially it'll be web platform. That's where it's going to exist for the majority of it. That's where it will continue to have pretty much most features built out. But the mobile, as you can see, that's going to be Android and iOS. And then the one that I'm quite excited for is the Oculus. So the way that would work is, the Oculus predominantly would be for the kind of metaverse experience with your spaces and whatnot. The web platform would be more for, it would be for that as well, but it would be for, the marketplace, the gamification side, all of that stuff as well. So I guess the most utility will be on the web, just because of security reasons, for accessibility. It's just a lot easier to have everything on that side on the web. But a lot of the functionality will exist on mobile and Oculus as well.
Okay. And will the Kalos token be on Ethereum? Will it be on Matic? Do we know?
Yes. So basically, the token is going to be of the ERC20 standard.
Okay.
So that means it's ETH. It can be paired with ETH on exchanges, and the token I haven't spoken too much about, but because that's all going to be covered in the white paper. But the idea behind the token is it is going to be a deflationary token. So just I guess for this is going to be in the white paper anyway. But the majority of our sales, which would be for our partners, those would be carried out in Matic, and that's because our partners, they're obviously getting a royalty from us using their IP as well. However, if we are using our own kind of ideas, so let's say we create an asset for a game that might be play to earn, for that, in that scenario, what we can do and what we're looking to do is, if users want to mint an NFT for this, this game, they could use our token as a fee, and we would 100% burn that. Or we would burn 95% and use 5% for, a kind of community reward scheme. We want it to be heavily deflationary because we are kind of able to raise capital through the NFT side, whereas the token side, we want more for utility within the platform and building up on that. So, going back to the morphing and crafting, all of that stuff will use our token. You would burn that for a fee, and then you would get something back. And these contracts that do that, these are all being written and developed by, for example, our lead developer, John. He is qualified to even audit smart contracts, so he audits smart contracts for other projects as well. He's a very high-level blockchain dev. So overall, yes, the token is predominantly a utility token. That actually goes back to the point of why the token sale is going to be a little bit later than what people may expect, given how much we've done, is because a lot of people might not know this, is we need to have utility of the token in place. We need to have the platform in place before we sell the token, because there's securities laws where if you have the token, if you were to sell a token before the product is built, you can get sued by the SEC or whatever government body. And a lot of projects, they actually go through this process where they raise capital with the token and they use the money from that token to then build a product. That's actually from day one not compliant. So we are trying to do this correctly from the get-go. Yes, it's harder to do it this way where we're not raising capital and trying to build a platform, but we're able to source revenue from other areas. So hopefully everything should be okay. But once the utility for the token's there, and then we do the launch of the token, we have confidence that people getting into the project, they're not going to get rug pulled by the SEC coming in and, attacking us like they did with XRP, for example. We're kind of one of the safer projects in that regard.
I'm just happy that you said that your goal is to build utility for the token before launch, right? That's already the right step in my mind, that you're considering the security ramifications. So happy to hear it. And then let me take a stab at this, because I think I can answer it, but let me know if I'm right or wrong. But I think it's a good question, because a lot of us, we're all VeVe fans, and I would love to be able to have my Aradinia warrior next to my Todd, next to Spider-Man, all that. But real talk, again, great question. Will Kaloscope be interoperable with VeVe NFTs? So if I understand Kaloscope correct, it's tied to a custodial wallet like MetaMask, right? So if VeVe NFTs, there will be some that are going to be available in Immutable X Marketplace, right? And Immutable X Marketplace is going to have the integration with OpenSea. So because of that integration, once that does happen with VeVe, technically, wouldn't I then be able to project my VeVe NFTs next to my other NFTs via MetaMask?
I think I want to answer this one from the very beginning. So I had a meeting with another very big VeVe person within the community, and they asked the same thing. And for now, we can't really say anything because, again, it's ways away. But the way I think about it is there's different types of other projects that have different NFTs. let's say, like Illuvium or whatever. So it might, let's say one NFT could have a certain functionality within their metaverse, but maybe because you connect your wallet or that NFT within our platform, it unlocks a new functionality instead. So, there's a lot of different ways. So let's say you have a board ape, which is just a 2D image, and you have a board ape metaverse right there. But let's say if you put that board ape onto a Kaloscope platform, it could maybe unlock an avatar instead of the said board ape. So, like, I'm not confirming anything or I'm not saying anything, but what we could do is maybe it's not the collectible, but it could be an unlockable new experience. So for buying something from another platform, you can unlock a new experience within our platform. So I could be Batman as an avatar, maybe. Who knows? I could be the Superman of this avatar. But the idea really is just to give new functionalities, to give new utilities for the partners as we move forward. Like Aradina, who's our work, who we're working with, just to give a new flavor. So it's not so. There's a lot we can do. We can't confirm or deny anything right now, but we're working on something. We'll reveal it over time.
Got it. I mean, I won't press too hard because again, it's very, very early, and the fact that you're kind of saying like there's things happening and I can't talk about it makes me, I guess, kind of hopeful to see eventually what could happen. But I mean, this is why I'm really into it, right? Like you said, just all the different sides that Kaloscope appeals to, from institutions to retail investors to creators to other NFT projects like Aradinia and multiple others possibly. And then we're always looking for like, what's that next big thing? Like we all kick ourselves that we weren't, early investors in Bitcoin or early investors in VeVe, right? Like back when they first started. So I'm always thinking about who's doing something big in the space, who's filling a gap that's needed. And that's why I'm excited about Kaloscope. But I do want to ask, how does Kaloscope plan to grow users and community? What are the goals of the project, next 12 months and beyond? What's the mission to be long term? And how do you get there?
Well, I would say for the way to visualize this is we're just learning from, let's say, how Facebook grew, right? The way Facebook grew was, I mean, if you watch The Social Network, the movie, they use this term called the little big horn strategy, which is you go to one university, you get people to sign up in that university, and then you have users, and then the next few users will then go into another university and get more users. So it becomes more exclusive at the very beginning, unless you're part of that certain uh, university, you can't enter Facebook. So that exclusivity, that's how it's tied up in the beginning. So the pass holders that we have, the diamond and gold, just think of them as the first batch of users that have early access to their app, and eventually they will then have the functionality to invite other people to this app, similarly to how Clubhouse grew very early last year, where you can invite maybe a specific number of NFT or users to join the app, but then there's only X amount of invitations available over time, and that exclusivity will help us as well. The growth and the hype and exclusivity is really gonna be at its peak because we want to make sure as well the platform is as best as possible and it can scale. So the experience is the very important to us, and Kay and John and the rest of the team, they're working super hard to make sure that the functionality, the product needs to be really good because we can market as ourselves, we can talk to as many influencers as possible to hype the project, but it's all about coming up with a platform that's really good for people. The user growth will always come when you have a really good product, and Tesla is probably the best example of this. Probably Tesla could have spent millions of dollars on advertising campaigns and even celebrities to come and ride in the car. But what Elon Musk did, is they focused on the product, the utility of that said car, made it so good that the car marketed itself, that other people start talking about it, and the exclusivity factor that only X number of people can join in. That's where the FOMO is. Now, not a lot of people still understand how early we are in the project, but when you realize you're early, because we're being as transparent as possible. We could have blocked everyone's names and just called ourselves as an entity, but we're out there talking to the community every single day. You probably see me in Discord because basically I'm managing the Discord at the moment with the rest of the team because we want to grow together. This may be a company, this might be a project, but we want to make sure that the people who grow with us very early on has something to say. So if you have ideas, maybe some concepts that you'd like us to try out, or maybe add this potential functionality within the app, have this is the pride thing where you guys can have an opportunity to contribute to building something beyond just I'm gonna buy this and I'm gonna flip this for 10x tomorrow. So
Yeah,
I like that you're saying that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just to chime in there quickly. So Kirk touched on a couple of like really good points. One specifically is kind of like how early this project is, because the way that we decided to map this out is, we could have mass marketed and we could have sold hype, but we kind of, and that maybe that was the right way to go. With the passes, we could have created more passes, hyped it up, sold a lot more, but we kept the size quite low. We kind of only really conveyed it to our own kind of close-knit community, mostly people within kind of the VeVe community, because one, we all know just how patient the VeVe community is, so that's good for us. Because and then two, at the same time, the way that we kind of see this is this platform, as you've probably picked up, with the non-custodial wallet, with the contracts, we're trying to make it as decentralized as possible, because one, we understand, the benefits of decentralization, but at the same time, if it's heavily centralized, if there's a company, it's kind of like you have the company and then you have the people. And this, in my opinion, now nothing wrong with that, but in my opinion, I think something that aligns better with us is you have this entity, this decentralized entity, and then here you've got like the company members, the people, and everyone just contributing towards this entity. So it's not like a case of the people fighting against the company and whatnot. It's like you're all coming together to basically make this decentralized entity a lot better. Obviously, it's not completely decentralized, but it's as decentralized as we're going to try and make it to be. And so we want our early adopters to be kind of like essentially team members. Like they're helping us with ideas, they're helping us via contributing towards this ecosystem, building up this metaverse with their spaces, because at the end of the day, whatever they do to kind of promote their identity, that becomes a part of this metaverse, and new people can coming in, they can kind of see, oh, there's someone who likes Aradinia. What's this project here with these kind of robot looking things? That's actually a teaser that I just gave away. And
robots.
Yeah, there's like a lot that we can do.
Got it. I mean, a lot to unpack there. I'm curious about the teaser there. So there's more coming. It sounds like there's more partnerships coming, but yeah, I think that's, and so what we'll do is, I know we're getting close on time, so let's take a few community questions because I'm sure there's quite a bit. I think this is actually a relevant question, right? I have a really important question. Why is no one asking serious questions about MTL? We need to have access to our money. So I think they're relaying this back to Kaloscope. So I guess kind of looking at how we buy NFTs in Kaloscope, will there be the ability to cash out? And I'm also thinking, looking at the NFTs, one big thing that I've been really bullish on with VeVe is localization. Will the app be available in more than one language? And the MTL question. Yeah,
so basically in terms of languages, this is why also the app and web platform, we're working to build out properly, design it properly. If you do it properly from the start, it's actually not that hard to localize. If you kind of hack it together, then yes, you have to kind of re-engineer the whole thing. We've seen other projects they have to re-engineer a lot of their apps, and that slows things down because they're not really creating something new. They're just re-engineering something that already exists. So there's no real immediate value to the customer. They're not seeing anything. So yes, on that aspect, we're going to be trying to make it, localized from as early as possible on the MTL point. So this links back to decentralization. We're not going to be taking, cash from people because one, there's a lot of regulation and compliance related to taking cash, and there's a lot of problems that happen to projects that accept cash. For example, what do we do if someone buys an NFT off us using cash and then they do a chargeback on their credit card? How do we kind of compensate for that? Like all of these things. And again, a lot of people with the type of project this is, we suspect a lot of people will want to be using crypto anyway. So on that point, you don't need to worry about MTL. You would use crypto in this case to do your transactions. You would take your NFTs if you want to sell it on a secondary market. We are going to be, cross-compatible across OpenSea, for example. We will have our own marketplace, which will initially be for purchasing, but there will be kind of, a more built-up marketplace later on. Another teaser is we will probably be featuring on other marketplaces. So, you have to stay tuned for that. So, yes, we kind of see that the point of MTL is supposed to be more for people who they're not used to crypto. But for us, we want to be a platform where, we see people becoming more educated about crypto. We'll try and kind of get them to learn about how to use, the crypto side. But at the end of the day, MTL wise, you don't need to worry. If you want to take your money out, you just do it the standard way. You get your crypto sent to exchange. We're not going to manage that for you.
Got it. So summarization, you can cash out, but not necessarily to fiat. It would be just like with most other crypto metaverse projects, like in Decentraland. If I sold something, I would sell it for mana, and then I could then take that mana, turn into USDT, and then cash out that way, right?
Yeah.
So, got it. So basically, the point is the money you put in, or the NFTs that you get, you can get the money out, right? So
Yes.
I think that was a good question from David Shaw. So thank you for that.
Yeah, from day.
Sorry.
From day one.
From day one. I think that is important. Yeah. Let's see. Is there any other questions from the community?
I did see a couple of good ones, but I think I might have lost them.
I'm scrolling up. Hold on one second. I do think this is actually a good question. So Crypto Noob asks, why are the VeVe influencers trying to push the project comparing it to VeVe? So the way I look at it is, I know there's a lot of VeVe folks who are involved in this, but if you watch the last AMA that we did a few months ago, Kirk is a VeVe investor himself, and he kind of saw, was inspired kind of what there was some things that VeVe was lacking or other projects were lacking. And that's kind of one of the reasons why Kaloscope was born, right? Like, it isn't a competitor necessarily, but it's an enabler of multiple projects. And so I think a lot of us, we love VeVe, we love Ecomi, but at the same time, we also collect other NFTs. And I'm always thinking, what is another investment that I can get into early, right? Like, I've had some pretty good calls with Ecomi and VeVe and Illuvium and Cardano and several others in my time, but I'm always keeping an open ear for other projects. And the fact that this is like ground floor, like, we're talking about we have our passes, but there's gonna be other NFTs coming. We're gonna see the Kalos token. We're gonna see, hopefully alpha and beta access into the app. That's the kind of stuff that, if you could have gotten into, and I'm not saying, Kaloscope is comparable to Apple, but if you could have gotten into Apple on a private sale back in the day, you'd be sitting pretty. If you'd have gotten into Ecomi or Omi in a private sale back in the day, you'd be sitting pretty, right? So I think that's why so many people in our community are excited. And, it's not necessarily that we're trying to push it. It's that we're excited about it, right? It's another thing that we see value in. And there's a lot of comparisons to VeVe. And that's why I think everyone's kind of hyped up in the community.
I mean, I can add.
Just to quickly add to that. So I think also the reason why there's kind of VeVe people, promoting it is, like I said earlier, we only ever let the VeVe people know about it because we didn't want to kind of, we went to essentially show this project first to a community that we understand, that we're familiar with, that we know would get the project, because they're in something that also involves like collecting and metaverse related stuff. So it only made sense. So the reason why there are VeVe kind of related people promoting this is because we only promoted this to VeVe related people. Now what you're seeing is Aradinia starting to promote it, and we're starting to see people who don't know anything about VeVe. They own Aradina Warriors. They're starting to promote Kaloscope because they really like this kind of metaverse space. They want to get in because there's like a massive whale called the Mad King in Aradina, and he's like super excited. I think for him we might need to actually implement a limit. I have a feeling that he's going to come in and buy all the spaces, but we've had a lot of very big VeVe whales as well. When I say VeVe whales, I'm talking like probably top 10 people in VeVe who are interested in this project. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on, and I think what helps is our partnerships. Brock, the person on my my left,
right there,
he's like involved in this project as well. We have Venkatesh as well, who is he's a shareholder of Ecomi. He's his team helped develop a lot of the VeVe app as well. So yeah, we kind of like feel like this community has supported us from quite early on, so we want to continue to embed that kind of I guess we want to reward this community in the long term as well.
I'm gonna add as well on top of what Kay said, because technically speaking, I was the one who chose the team from the very beginning.
Oh yeah, you did.
So
Yeah.
Kay was, we've been friends for what, 8-9 years since uni days. So I knew Kay from the very beginning, and I was pushing Kay about this idea, like, hey man, do you think this idea would work? And for months he just kept telling me about, no, what about this, what about that. So it took Kay a while to even understand the project or what I was trying to see, because I didn't have a word for it. I didn't know the experience for it. But eventually, all this came organically. The VeVe influencers that you have, that and love, like Dozer, the Comic Way, Hera, Athena, and they're not there because even Kay, like, they're not there because they're influencers. They're there because they have very professional key skill set that will help contribute to the wider picture of the vision that we're trying to build. Like, Kay has his expertise, but he, at the same time, as an added bonus, he is an influencer within the VeVe community. And the rest of them, like Dozer is an amazing comic book writer and storyteller. So at some point we could produce maybe an NFT comic book beyond what you can see. But it's not about the influencers trying to push it. It's that they see something that people don't see yet, and that's why influencers are there. And when the app is out, when the platform is out, and when you start to see it, I think there's a difference between seeing something and believing in it, and literally having the vision to see something, go forward, and then just build it from scratch. Because we're very transparent. We were there from the very start, and we know a bunch of the community, but we want to make sure that it's really just organic. All this was organic; it wasn't planned, but everybody had their own influence to building this project.
I think that's two really great points that both of you just said. So, yeah, I like that you touched on the fact that we're not just picking and choosing, VeVe influencers to join. We're picking skill sets, and the fact that some of them do have a voice in the community is there. But then I really like what you said, Kay, around the fact that we could have just poured money into marketing and advertising and pumped everyone up on these passes and then just sold them out. But then what happens after, right? Like, instead, it was more, we'll just promote it to the communities that we have and let it grow organically, like Kirk said. And that speaks volumes, right? Because you have to be careful in the NFT space, in the metaverse space, to not, invest in another pump and dump or in a rug pull or in something that's just going to lose some of that traction in a month or 2 months or in 6 months, right? So these are all the kind of moves that make me want to invest, and that's why I'm excited about the project. So let's take another question, and we'll wrap up here. But I I think it's like perfect one question. We saw the roadmap. We know that things are coming, but so what can we expect? I guess in the month of February, this quarter, what's coming that we can see, and when can Taps Trades get his hand on the alpha app, so that way he can show the community.
Yeah, actually, so this month we can expect the website to be out. So when I was saying everyone's early, you're so early, it's pre-website. And what we can also expect is the white paper, so that you have a better idea of the roadmap and what's coming, the tokenomics. I spoke a little about the tokenomics already. It's going to be deflationary. I spoke a little bit about staking. And I would say that's kind of like the main thing to look forward to this month. And then I think probably next quarter we can look forward to the kind of possibly the early iteration of the web platform marketplace, and we can have like our kind of a first launch there, which would be the Aradinia space, as well as the Aradinia portals. So the portals are the kind of sort of soldiers in this kind of big Colosseum, and it's actually on the cover of their first comic book. So what we've done is their comic books were released in different rarities. And by the way, their comic books, I've never been able to land one. I was able to land the VeVe comic book today, but I've never been able to land an Aradinia comic book. It's just too hard. And
You're
those
so
things,
proud.
like Kirk's got the rarest version. How much is it worth on OpenSea now, Kirk, your comic?
I have no idea. Honestly, all I did was click the button and I got a comic book. I showed it to Dozer and I said to him, man, I got a comic book. And then he says, what rarity? And then there's a rarity. And I didn't even know. So it was the epic one. And there's actually like 5 copies out of a copy of 100. And I think the
Yeah.
floor price from like 1 Ethereum to like probably between 5 to 10 from
Wow.
0.2. So,
Nice snag.
Yeah, I think it's like between 5 to 10 ETH now. Like I can't remember. Last time I saw it, I think it was about 5 ETH from 0.2, which is like a crazy like increase. So yeah, the comic book rarities, like they had different colored like the soldiers on the front, the kind of like statues. So we're doing something similar where the 3D portals with the statues, they're going to be the same kind of rarity coloration. Dozer said, yeah, it's a $30,000 floor. So Kirk paid like the equivalent of $500, and now it's worth $30,000. So Aradinia, like I've been sharing their stuff on Twitter, and some people they're like, I think a lot of people who do follow VeVe, they're very open to other projects, but then there's some that kind of like are very fixated on VeVe, so they let these opportunities just go past. And I've been saying Aradinia is like a crazy project right now. They were top 10 in OpenSea recently as well. I'm basically promoting Aradinia now rather than Kaloscope, but we're partners, so it works both ways.
I'm cool with it. I have an Aradinia Warrior, so please.
Yeah. You've got Aradinia Warriors as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's actually like the cool thing, right? Is if you don't know anything about, like, let's say Kaloscope, but Aradinia, you come onto the platform, and then on Kaloscope you might find another project that's quite cool, and then you learn about that project. It's kind of like, again, like if I was to compare to VeVe, like I came into VeVe for Marvel, right? And then I discovered Tokidoki, and I was like, oh, I'm collecting all the Tokidoki. It's that kind of thing. You would come onto Kaloscope because of Aradinia, and then you discover other cool stuff. So that's the way that we would kind of grow organically. So a lot of cool value propositions there.
Love it. I mean, I think what you guys are doing is incredible. It's truly exciting, and it's so ground level that I'm happy that you've taken the time to show us what you have today. Again, I like all the different sides of the business, like who it's attracting, the retail side, the institutions, other NFT projects, creators of NFT projects. All of that has massive potential. And I like that you're doing so many things up front before we even have access to the app, before we even have access to the website. The fact that you're already building in real life utility in Dubai, and right, like to an actual Metaverse side. I like that you're involving NFT projects that are already recognized, like Aradinia, and working with people that we know and trust, like Venkatesh, Brock Blockchain, and Hello K. I mean, that's why I'm excited about this project, right? And I think we keep seeing more and more. Like, we didn't have all this information 4 months ago when you guys hopped on, and now we have a lot more information. We have a demo, we have some visibility, we see some of it already enacting with other NFT projects. So I think in the next couple months, when we do see that roadmap unfold, we're going to need another conversation, and we'll have a lot more to show. Hopefully you guys can create a Kaloscope or a DNA light so I can throw it over there where that tree is. So I have a VeVe on one side and a Kaloscope on one side. But I mean, I'm just really excited for this. And I think several others are in the community, and some of them are probably hesitant because they just don't understand it. So hopefully they either hopped in here and did watch it, or they'll watch after this. But, you know, I'm just excited for the project and happy that you guys took time to hop here and explain it. Where can people be a part of this community? Where can people learn more? You know, on Twitter, Discord, what does that look like?
Yeah, just join us on Discord, follow us on Twitter. We do have a number of our other platforms like Facebook, Instagram. So over time, we'll be organically reaching out to other platforms as we're also we're slowly impacting the Philippine side as well, which I'll just throw in there. The Filipino community is probably one of the biggest communities in the NFT space. So we're the gamification really would potentially attract a large share of that as well. So, you know, just follow us on those socials. You know, you have Hello K and Dozer, Hera, and Athena, and the rest of the Kaloscope knights, as I call them. Just follow each one, and we're here. We're very transparent. Any questions, just let us know.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for giving me so much time to hop on here and kind of go through the project. Again, it's I'm excited as an investor. I'm excited to be involved, hopefully to cover more content once we have more visibility. But yeah, thank you both for taking the time to hop on and share Kaloscope.
Yeah, no worries.
Problem. All right. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, go check out Kaloscope on Twitter, join the Discord. I have the information, the details of this video. I'll even post it in a comment on the video as well, and comment what your thoughts are. If you have additional questions, comment on the video as well. And I'm sure Kay will be trolling in there and answering questions as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Kirk. Thank you, Kay. And I will see you in the next one.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.